Meowsy everyone, welcome back to moroxmods. Now you may be wondering, why should you spend your hard-earned dollar on something like this, and a hobby that's full of a bunch of knockoffs, illegal knockoffs, and remakes, and overall just blasters that don't seem to have any more love in them? Well, let me show you. I think that's reason enough, but I think you should stay tuned. Meowsy! Welcome back, everybody! Now, before we get into the overview of the blaster, there are a couple things I need to note. First off, what is my relationship with the company? View Blasters and XYL. View Blasters does not have a single damn clue of who I am, and XYL I'm pretty sure is the same, so nothing to really note there. But I recommend y'all wait till the end of the video, because there are some iffy things I have to say about View Blasters. And I'm going to put it up right now. This blaster is $140 on View Blasters' website. Now, do you think that's worth it? That's up to you. Everything will be down in the description, including where you can get more shells, along with the blaster. But I'm not going to waste any more of your time. Let's get into it. Alrighty, before we get into the overview of the blaster, I do need to mention something. The shells, sadly, are proprietary. These shells have not been used in any other blaster as far as I'm aware of. If you know of any blaster that feeds a shell similar to this, please put it down in the comments, because the only thing I've been able to find is maybe this, this Chinese double-barrel shotgun. I don't know, it looks like it might. But that means your three most popular, at least short dart shells, will not work with this blaster. Your Flypoint, Firefly, and Buzzbee shells will not work. Now, the Flypoint shells will fit inside the magazine tube. They'll fit well and they'll feed decently well. But they don't have a good enough extractor or a big enough extractor, so sometimes they will just fly out of the magazine tube. The chamber is way too small for this type of shell. Like, as you can see, the wall thickness on a Flypoint shell versus the XYL shell is drastic. So if you wanted to make this blaster feed, you would probably want to get a slightly better, or slightly bigger, if you can see, magazine tube extractor. Extractor, I guess. You want to get one 3D printer that's slightly bigger, and you want to print a bigger chamber. And then you might be able to feed these, because I can put them on the extractor just fine, and they'll extract, but they won't feed. The Firefly will not even fit into the magazine tube. They get stuck the moment you go anything past, like, right about there. And the Buzzbee won't even try to fit in this blaster at all. So, sadly, all of these popular shells, I even have 1,000 of these, will not fit in this blaster. Sadly. But we are going to go over, just like Grantham does, from tip to butt of the blaster. Up front right here, we have a blue barrel, which is not normal at all. And no, there is not even a single variant of this blaster that comes with an orange barrel. So if you're going to run this outside, please get someone to print you off, or at least paint or tape this to make it look orange. Because this, especially if it's pointed away from you at someone like that, that might look like a firearm. So please be careful with this. The magazine tube cap has a spike on it. Now, you're supposed to get a flat variant with this, but that's what I'm talking about. Make sure to watch till the end of the video where I discuss some of the issues with this blaster. But it's decently well. I've dropped it a couple times and you can tell it's kind of started to chafer off, but it's durable enough. On the sides right here we have two metal pieces of Picatinny rail, which was not expected, but is a nice touch. On the bottom right here we also have a similarly sized piece of Picatinny rail, but these are a bit bigger. Now, you can put anything you really want on these as long as it'll fit. You might put a small foregrip. Not sure why you would do that, but you can. But you can put pretty much anything that'll fit on these Picatinny rails on them and run them. Along the top of the blaster right here is another long piece of Picatinny rail. I currently have the Silly Butts slab iron sights on here, but they clearly were not meant to go onto real Picatinny. They are very loose, but they at least stay within the little slot, so they don't go much of anywhere. Down here, the pump grip is a lovely style pump grip. It's very nice and girthy. That's what she said. And it's got some nice ridges on there that you can dig your hand into, so that way you can pump the blaster nice and well. I personally am probably going to get one printed off that has Picatinny on the bottom, so I can add either a prongo foregrip or an angled foregrip, because even though this doesn't feel bad, I have poor motor skills, so this really hurts after a couple hours of play. So that's what I will be doing, and I will likely release them on my shop once I get them all designed. Up here at the front, we also have a metal sling loop, along with one here on the back. These are both metal, so you can definitely sling this on your back, and you don't have to worry about any 3D printed parts breaking. I personally am going to run this on a 1 point on my hip, but to each their own. This mag tube is also metal, and if I unscrew it for you, I'm on Owlberry Days, there we go. The whole entire mag tube, I can speak English, I swear, is almost like this sort of aluminum. Now I have had it start to rub off. I'm not even sure what that is, because it's not even the inside of the grip. So that's strange, and something to note. It just screws into the overall chassis, so you might be able to find slightly longer mag tubes, which that's what I plan to do. The barrel is it's more to be desired. Literally, besides this right here, this is the only piece of metal on the barrel. Your shell is your barrel. The rest of this is literally just a shroud that the dart, goes through. So just like an end strike barrel liner, that it's not going to add any performance, and it's probably going to hinder your performance. Which is probably why this blaster gets a measly 50 FPS. If you see right here on my chronograph, you can see I'm getting between 50 to 60 FPS. That is not good. But the internals are metal, so there might be some potential, but we'll get into that in a moment. Back here, along the side of the blaster, we have a shell caddy that carries 6 shells. Now, since this feeds with 5 in the tube and 1 in the chamber, this is a perfect way to fill up your blaster. Though, after about a month of owning this, it's a little loose. But mostly just the back one. The rest of them seem to be decently fine. So make sure that if you buy this blaster to be careful with that. I'm likely going to get some S-Tac Velcro caddies, so that way I can just pull them off and have a bunch of different ones. And yes, these shells do feed 50 caliber foam balls. I have tried it. I don't own any, but I was able to find some and they worked well. You can fit upwards of around 2, maybe 3, depending on the fit of the shell. So you can definitely have a shotgun. so that's nice. But the fit on the shells is iffy from shell to shell. Now, on the other side right here, we obviously have the chamber and extraction points. Now, this blaster does feed very well. If you take a look on the lifter right here, this is also aluminum, with an aluminum follower. So the loading of this blaster is heavenly. It reminds me of like loading up a Firefly. It's so good. And the chambering, there's nothing better. Now, like I said, you can only fit a total of 5 in the tube, 1 in the chamber. And the prime weight is similar to a pump action blaster that you get from Nerf. Like an Alpha Trooper right here, it's roughly about the same. So, don't expect high performance from this, but you can definitely rattle off shells nice and well. And yes, this blaster can either be fired like a normal pump action, one at a time, or slime fire. That is one reason why I love this blaster. There's nothing like this in the hobby. But back here, on the trigger guard, we obviously have the trigger. And it's a nice metal trigger, it's very clicky. And the pull is decent. It also has a safety back here, a normal shotgun safety. When it is pointing on the left of the blaster, that is fire. When it's on the right of the blaster, it is locked. So that's nice to have when you're carrying it, but I found as a left-handed shooter, I found sometimes I'd accidentally activate the safety and stop my firing, so that's not fun. It has a sawn-off grip, so that's very nice. It sort of thins off at the back right here, so it doesn't feel the best. I wish it could have thinned off a little bit more up here, but it's in line with the blaster and that's where it screws in, so I understand why they did that. But it's pretty comfortable and it's really nice to shoot at the hip. But I like to aim down my sights and that's not the most comfortable. Like I said, back here we have a singular sling loop, which is very sturdy. I've ran around with this for hours without a single crack, break, or slippage. Now, it did have a, it had a sort of synthetic, material on it, so you could put your wrist through, but I didn't like that, so I ripped it off. And there was an accessory for up here that was like a leather shell holder, but again, I wasn't a fan of it, so I took it off, because it made really trying to go for your blaster a bit more difficult. Now, before we end off this video, I do need to cover the internals. Like I said, this only shoots 50 FPS. But that spring is very, very nice. So, it is something that I would recommend to try to find an upgrade spring, and try to put in a barrel. But that is something that I will have in another video. Again, if you want this blaster, I recommend you go down in the description, where I will have the link to Blasters' website, along with some shells you can get from Blasters as well. So, I hope you all enjoyed the video. I'm going to hand you off to the future version of me, who's going to cover the issues I've had with this blaster. And then she will send you off. It was lovely seeing y'all once more. Alrighty, so getting into some of the issues I had with this blaster and the company. First of all, I don't like the fact that it came with these sort of weird attachments. First of all, it came with these weird short darts, these weird sort of Chinese sort of things that we see on a lot of knockoff blasters. It came with a very leather type of shell holder. Now, I wouldn't mind this if it wasn't for the fact that it was made of horrible quality, only holds 4 shells, and overall just feels like absolute garbage. And the tension on the shells is decent, but you could definitely get better. It also came with a sling that you probably got with your weird AR toy you bought from Dollar Tree. It feels like I can break it by just holding it. The metal is decent, but I wouldn't trust it. And it doesn't match with the blaster. This is green. Where on this blaster do you see green? A black one would have made more sense. Or heck, a blue one, for God's sakes. And that's about it for those. But that also gets me into the problem. See this? This is the spiked variant of the mag tube cap. There's supposed to be a flat one that pretty much cuts this little thing off. It didn't come with the blaster. It was supposed to. Pretty sure I was also supposed to get a couple of attachments as well. And it didn't even come in the packaging. Yeah. It literally came in a cardboard box. You heard me. A cardboard box wrapped in bubble wrap, and the attachments were put inside of a sandwich bag. A sandwich bag, for fuck's sake. Now, we'll get into that in a moment. But it also came with 5 of these, like, mini darts. 5 of these mini dart shells. And 5 of these regular shells. Now, I have only 6 on the blaster right now because I hate that leather shell wrap thingy. And it came with these weird dragon darts that you'll see with the unicorn. The suction cup head and everything like that. They get horrible performance. Don't use them. But they can fit AF Pros, worker darts, max darts, and pretty much any other sort of short dart you'd want to use. So, I'm not going to complain too much about that. But we also had some jams. The main jam I had before I fixed the blaster was something similar to this, if I can recreate it. So, gonna fire that shell, but then when I would, eject like this, it wouldn't actually eject. The extractor wouldn't catch onto the shell, and I'd have something like this. I think it's referred to as a stovepipe. And that would completely jam up the blaster, if not rechamber the old shell. So I pretty much had to go in and rip out that shell that was in the chamber, and then rack and fire again. That can get you tagged in any game. How very dare you. So I went in and strengthened up that extractor spring, and it fixed the problem. But I'm not going to keep y'all here much longer. View Blaster said they would send us a refund for the problems I faced and for the lack of packaging and all those issues. They only sent us a partial, around like $20, $30, when they said they were going to replace it in full. A $200 order. So, with the unreliability of View Blasters, I recommend you spend your money elsewhere. I love this blaster, but that's because I'm a modder. I can mod this, I can fix the issues it has. If you're not, please don't buy this. Find something else. Hate to end it off on a sour note, but hopefully these next couple videos that come up in the outro will help with that sort of sour taste. Can't wait to see y'all again. I might be covering some mod parts for the Solo Pro, so make sure to keep an eye out on that. I shall see you all in the next one, and on the battlefield. Bangarang!